Bien le bonjour everyone and welcome back to my channel. Long time no see. In case you wonder where I was, well, I had a lot of things going on in my life, and anyway, my mic broke down on me during a recording, so 20-minute videos down the drain, wonderful. But enough about me, you don't care, even maybe I don't care about myself, no. We're here to talk about the son of Rise of Kingdom, maybe even the son of our life. No, what am I talking about? We're here to talk about Sun Tzu's Prime. So, it's been announced for a few days now, and it's bound to be released tomorrow. So, what I'm gonna do is an in-depth pre-release analysis, where I talk about the mechanics, what is expected of his skills, and what we can already decide regarding the pairings and the investments of that commander. Disclaimer, take that with a grain of salt. A few things. First, the description of the skills is contain a lot of errors every single time. Maybe not a lot, but there are major error or unclear things that drastically change what the commander actually do compared to what we thought it would do. Also, lilies can completely change the code if they feel like it. So I'm going to make a few assumptions based off current mechanics on how the game currently work. But let's remember that they change the way buff work for CY on Shajar, they change the way rage work with Queen, and they change the way active skill can trigger with Achilles. So yeah, they can do basically whatever they want. So take everything I'm gonna say with a grain of salt, but if everything comes true, well, you can basically take my conclusion and apply it to your account and you're gonna be fine. So, first thing first, let's read the skills. So, rage requirement of 900 on the active skill, this is very important, we will talk about a lot about the rage. So, this commander troop immediately, important here, gains the military sage effect, so immediately means it's gonna work like CY on Shajar, like the buff is taking action and can be used straight up during that round where you're actually launching the active skill. So undeals for 5 seconds, the buff lasts for 5 seconds, and Sun Tzu also deals smite damage to target troop. 3000 damage factor when the skill is maxed, and the expertise also increase that skill, but not the smite factor, alright? So the second part, what is the military sage effect? Well, when dealing smite damage to a target troop, this commander troop deals 5% up to 20% and 30% with the expertise of this smite damage as true damage to up to 2 enemy troops in a fan. So before you go crazy and think like, yeah, so if I pair him with Liu Che or BQ, can I hit 10 target? Yeah, no, you're not gonna proc that thing 5 times, meaning you would hit 10 targets, because this effect can trigger up to 1 time per second, alright? So no. don't, don't go crazy already, alright? There is a lot of things that are pretty amazing with that commander, but not that. So basically, every turn you can hit 2 target tops during this 5-second window. Assuming you are able to deal smite damage for 5 turns straight, which is not gonna happen that much, alright? This is borderline impossible, or very, very unlikely. So let's move on. Second skill, so the stat buff skill, God tier amazing, completely absurd, like 25% more HP, 20% health. The skill could stop right here, and it would still be the best stat skill of any infantry commander in the game, probably. But no, he also has 30% attack. Why not? Alright, so completely absurd, super strong. Infantry mains loves it. Third skill, gain 20% defense because he didn't have enough stats already. Up to 10% smite bonus. And lastly, he has a 50% chance to deal an instant of smite damage for every basic attack. This basically only matter for Liu Che, or if you were to pair him with a combo commander, which you probably won't. And this effect can trigger up to 1 time every 3 seconds. So the smite factor is not very high, right? 400. It's not very low either. But it's mainly here for the third skill, for the fourth skill. Sorry. So let's go on it right now. It's going to shoot takes 10% less damage overall, and gain 20 rage per target hit by the true damage from his military sage effect. So yeah, he has a good rage engine. You will see this rage engine is massively strong. Yeah, we will see that in a moment. So he also has a 50% chance to deal 2% more all damage for the next 5 seconds whenever he gains rage from that skill. It then can stack up to 5 times on this version whenever I get another stack. Alright. Well, it's pretty neat because, well, basically every single time you're going to proc true damage with 50% chance because you hit 2 targets, basically you're going to get 2% more all damage per instances, so you can stack up that pretty fast. So yeah, this cannot be neglected, even though it's a ramp-up skill, and ramp-up skill are not very loved, even by me. But that one is pretty reliable. Even if it lasts only 5 seconds, you could think that, yeah, the buff also lasts 5 seconds, so what if I cannot really link it from one to another? Well, you will see that the odds of you keeping it up from one skill cycle to the other are non-zero, unless you are running around a lot during the ball fight, which is realistic. So yeah, that's why we don't really like ramp-up skills, by the way. So now that we're done with it, let's move right now straight up to the rage calculation. So just before that, I cranked up here the main mechanics that we have in here. So a 5-second buff, 10% smite bonus, 2% all damage up to 10%, a smite on it, and a smite on it that will proc the rage engine, 20 rage per true damage target. And that's mainly what we're going to discuss. So, as usual, my round 1 is the round where you cast the first active skill. So, since we will cast his active skill right here, he gains the Sage effect, so displayed here in red. Those are the turns where I have the Sage effect, alright? So, because I launched his active skill, I'm triggering the Sage effect, meaning that on the next one I'm dealing true damage and gaining 40 rage. Why is that here? This should be here, and this should be here. Alright. Here already I'm assuming a little thing, and it's that the true damage occurs on the next turn where the Sage effect was triggered. This is what makes the most sense, and ultimately it doesn't change much. Maybe the true damage will go right away, and the rage will then go right away, but it won't change anything for the calculation I'm about to do later. So already you can proc the rage engine 2 times, basically guaranteed, and you will see that this is massive. This is absolutely massive, alright? Let's talk about the rage. So a small reminder, you gain basically 104 rage per turn just by launching a basic attack as a smite commander. Rage is very important for smite commanders because they do not have a rage event-like effect. Like, they do not gain rage whenever dealing instances of smite damage or whenever launching an active skill, right? So they are already starving in the rage department, but not Sensu. So basically, over the Sage effects, you can expect to gain 600 rage, which means you need 300 more. And if you have no other sources of rage, that's 3 more turns, and that means that you cycle at worst in 8 rounds, which is already decent, alright? By the way, if you do not have this 80 more rage, well, you will only be at very easily 32 rage, which means you would need 1 more round. So already the rage engine is guaranteed to save you 1 round, which is amazing. Alright, so he has a lower rage requirement, which basically cuts 1 second per skill cycle straight up. And this rage engine is guaranteed to drop you another second of a skill cycle. This is already absurd for a smite commander. But that's not all. I mean, you can easily get an extra 100 rage. And let's consider Sun Tzu in a vacuum with an imaginary secondary commander that does nothing. What are the odds of Sun Tzu's instant proc to actually net you some rage? Well, because it can only occur during the Sage effect, this helps a lot for the calculation. Basically, everything is here. You need that instance of smite damage to proc not on the same round as the active skill, because the active skill already will trigger the Sage effect. So you want Surprise Strike, Sun Tzu's third skill, to trigger either on round 2, round 4, or round 5. The probability of that are here. Basically, you don't want it to proc on round 1, and then you want it to proc on round 2. Same goes here. You want a failure, a failure, a failure, and a win. Failure, 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 and a win. The probabilities are here. You just add them up, and you have basically 35% chance of Sun Tzu's instant proc to net you some rage. If it lands anywhere else, and anywhere else it's just round 1 or round 3, it won't do anything. You will just get the 400 smite factor, and that's it. You won't get true damage out of it, so you won't get rage out of it. So we are trying to save one round, well, we get an extra 40 rage, and we are short 52 rage to actually cut one more round, because we need to reach 100. If we have one Horn proc, well, we are pretty sad, because we are missing 2 rage. So likely you're maybe gonna launch one counter attack, or maybe you're gonna gain some rage compensation if you are getting dunked, or because your march is a bit lower than your target. So actually it's gonna be enough. But one way to make sure and guarantee that one Horn proc and one extra proc from Sun's own engine himself is just to have Talented Horn. If you have a Talented Horn, you can quite easily, a Horn proc is basically guaranteed over such a long period. So basically 35% chance to cut an extra second of the skill cycle. And you would say, yeah, 35% is not amazing, but yeah, wait a minute. It's Sun only by himself. You actually have a secondary. So let's discuss them very quickly. So William Wallace, let's discard him very quickly. He's garbage, he's useless. He has no smite procs on his passive skills. He only have retard damage on his active skill. So basically, if Wallace is here, on that very specific round 3, you need to be hit by someone. You need to launch a counter attack, basically. And every target up to 3 that is hitting you on that very specific round, on the next turn, will take 300 smite damage. Which means you will proc the Sage effect, which means on the next round, you will launch true damage and gain up to 40 rage. And let's be realistic, you're basically guaranteed to hit 2 targets if you are in open field fighting, in a ball. Which is useless because you were hit here, which means you gained rage of counterattacks. So this is unreliable and pretty much useless because you gained rage anyway. So Wallace is, as usual, completely useless. Now let's talk about BQ. So BQ has 20% rage speed. Let's discuss quickly rage speed. Thank you, Weak Gaming, for discovering that. I hope you're doing well, even if you're likely not watching any rock content anymore. So rage speed only increases the rage gained of basic attacks. So reminder, a basic attack is 86 rage. Again, thanks Weak Gaming. So that would be 17 rage per proc of the malice effect from BQ. So this is a very small rage increment. It's borderline neglectable. But what is not neglectable is that to get a 20 rage speed, you actually triggered the malice effect, so you dealt instant proc smite damage. So if you're lucky and it lands here, or here, or here, you will get another proc of Sun's active skill, and that 35% chance actually increases. The issue is that BQ's Malice effect is kinda unreliable. It's very unreliable. It can trigger a lot during a short time frame, and then you won't trigger for several turns. Like the odd increase of getting an extra Sun Rage Engine proc is not very consistent and not very high, not very improved by BQ, right? So lastly, let's talk about LC. So LC has an instant proc. The issue is it's a very long cooldown. It's a 5-second cooldown. It's not tied to the Sage effect, so it can trigger a few rounds earlier, and then you are suddenly on cooldown for a few rounds, let's say maybe even two, maybe even 3, and if you're unlucky, well, 4 rounds with the cooldown if it's triggered just before. And suddenly, well, it doesn't increases your odds a lot. Yeah, so it's there, it can happen, but it's not very, very, very strong from a Rage Engine perspective with Sensu. What is much stronger is the expertise, obviously. Else's expertise is god tier just because of the regeneration, not really because of the damage. And yeah, if you get one, well, it's pretty straightforward. Let's discuss quickly the Rage Cap. By the way, Sensu cannot eat the Rage Cap as long as it's launching counter attack, even if you get a talented Horn proc. Even in the worst case scenario where when he is getting rage from the Sage effect, if you add 65, you are not reaching 220. And if you do get an expertise, Luce's expertise proc during a Sage proc, or I should say a true damage turn, you will hit the cap, but only by 10 rage. Right? It's manageable, it's okay. So already we basically realized something very, very quickly. If Sensu is the most damaging commander, and we will talk about that in a very short moment, if he's the most damaging, you want to amplify him. The only commander that can very well amplify him is LC. So if Sun is the most damaging commander, you want to bring LC. If he's not, well, let's see who is the most damaging between LC and BQ. Like no one knows that. All right, a quick reminder: BQ is obviously the most damaging commander of the Smite commander we have currently. I'm kind enough to put Wallace in here, but everyone knows it's pointless, it's garbage. That commander is a joke. To be honest, he has nothing. He has nothing. I don't know why they released that. So, whatever. So that's the average smite factor of BQ per round. That's the average smite factor of LC per round. So let's discuss Sensu. Sensu will be very hard to discuss because the true damage formula is, well, very expectable. Let's discuss it quickly. So a base damage formula would be like this. I simplified it quite a lot. All right, so that would be, for instance, what BQ or LC would do. All right, you take your smite factor, you multiply by your attack, you divide by the enemy's defense, you divide by enemy's health, you add bonuses. Bonuses, because this is smite factor here, would be all damage bonus, normal damage bonus, and smite bonuses, and then you reduce by the maluses, which would be, well, all damage taken reduction from the enemy, normal damage taken reduction from the enemy, and smite damage taken from the enemy, reduction from the enemy. I don't think there is any smite damage reduction in the game right now, but you basically get the gist of it. All right. There is also obviously a troop count factor in there, but I did not put it. All right. So why do I put that here in the true damage formula? Because a few people think that it's gonna be 30% of that 3,000 period, that you won't actually get the benefit of attack defense, or, well, not the benefit from defense on maluses, but the benefit of attack and bonuses on true damage at all, which is not what should be expected. Right? Why do they think that? Well, because true damage calculation do not factor attack, defense, on buffs or debuffs. Why do I think it will actually matter once and not twice? All right, this is so that it doesn't proc twice. It's because for CY on Jar that deal true damage of healing, buffs to heal do increase your true damage output because it's a percentage of your healing done, not healing base. All right, it's not base healing; it's actual calculated healing, if you want. So this is safe to assume that it will be the same. All right. By the way, because in Lilith's videos showcasing the commander, we see numbers like as high as I think it was 2000 or something like this. But that basically means, yes, there is a damage formula applied before reducing it by before taking 30% of it, and then applying the true damage formula part. All right, so that would be the whole formula. And why did I put health here? Well, because they don't mention health here. So true damage is not looking very good because health gets to reduce the true damage twice, basically. Right? It reduces smite damage once, and then you get another reduction. So I think the true damage is not going to be very high. And by the way, so let's discuss very quickly the damage you're getting. So that's BQ. Then you reduce it by 30%. You take 30% of it, and you basically get 1,500 true damage factor. All right. So in that very specific case, you can put it here. It will be increased by attack once, reduced by defense once, reduced by health twice, and bonus bonuses are gonna apply once. But here it's gonna be smite bonuses, all right, because it's true damage of smite. So because you're getting reduced by health twice, yeah, that's where it's starting to get complicated, and I let the work to Bilect, all right. Bilect loves to do very complicated with a lot of cases. It's not that it's very complicated. It's just you have so many cases depending on your gear, depending on enemy's gear, depending on your target, depending on the commanders. There are like so many cases. I don't think it's worth doing. Bilect does, and he does it very well. I don't think it's a good use of my time personally. Because I can get conclusions without going so in depth, right? So true damage factor, basically. Note that this is one instance, all right? So that's BQ's instance. On Sun instance, if I add it here, no, never mind. Never mind. I completely forgot. What have I done? Am I tired or drunk? Maybe both. Well, considering the hour, no. No, I think I'm just stupid. I forgot to factor Sun's own true damage factor. Oh yeah, no, because I wanted to compare from one commander to another. So because it's always there, it doesn't really matter. Same goes here. Actually, that line is not very important. Let's remove it. All right. So I was very lenient with William Wallace, and that's why he's ahead, because I assumed he would hit 3 targets with his retard damage. If he doesn't, no, never mind. What am I saying? No, because you can only trigger it once. Well, you need to trigger it once to get the full benefit, but if you do not hit the retard damage, well, it's actually lower or in between the two commanders. All right, so he is on par with the other commander as a quote-unquote amplifier to Sun Tzu. And by the way, because William Wallace has no normal damage nor smite damage buff, well, he is actually worse at amplifying Sun Tzu. Yeah, that commander is really garbage. All right, so yes, he does have one amplifier of 40%. I mean, yeah, all right, whatever. He is just garbage. Don't try to revive him. It's not gonna work. LC and BQ both have 10% normal damage. BQ have smite damage bonus as he drops troops. But because he's dropping troops, it's hardly or barely, not even making up for the troop loss, right? So yeah, very quickly, in case you don't know, BQ is 11% more damaging than LC on average. Because I'm taking the same number here, the result here will be the same. So yeah, what am I doing? I want to click here and here. I have the same number, all right? So the smite damage of Sun Tzu off his secondary is going to be 11% higher if it's BQ compared to LC. But that is a very minimal part of Sun's damage because, well, of course, he has 3000 smite factor, which is a lot. He has the true damage off with 3000, and then only he has the true damage of his secondary, all right? So compared to that, it's a lot lower. It's not a neglectable part, but it's the lowest part. Well, obviously the lowest part would be small smite proc instances that would proc true damage, but this is actually neglectable, but this is here mainly for the rage. So the issue with that, and why I didn't go further, is that it's very hard to assess the actual damage of a true damage factor, all right? Because as I said, it's reduced by health twice. So that's basically where the speculation goes, all right? So BQ is more damaging than LC. So if Sun is less damaging than the 3, than the 2, is the least damaging of the 3 commander, all right? Let's remove Wallace. He's useless, he's garbage. We don't want him on the screen. Let's remove that too, all right? If he's the least damaging, you have to use him as an amplifier because, well, he's the best amplifier out of the 3. Well, BQ is not an amplifier basically at all. LC has 10%, Sun Tzu has 10% plus up to 10%, so he can go up to 20%, which means he is the one with the most bonuses to damage factors, or smite factors to be very precise. LC does have a Rage Engine, BQ basically doesn't. LC's Rage Engine can easily save you 1 turn. 2 turns is likely. 3 turns is unlikely. Whereas Sun Tzu's Rage Engine and Rage requirements are guaranteed, like 100% chance to remove to cut you 2 seconds, and if you are lucky, you're gonna get a third seconds more easily. I mean, you need all the rage generation like a horn, so it's LC2 can use a horn, but first of all, he can proc it on his expertise proc, which is not good because it's a wasted proc. So that's a good point for Sun, and also yeah, you can have horn procs that are useless to LC. That can also happen to Sun Tzu, but it's less likely just because of the Rage Engine. Alright, so basically, what I'm trying to say is that Sun is shortening the Rage cycle more than LC, more rarely, alright? And is amplifying damage more than LC. That basically means if you treat him as an amplifier, well, you want to pair him with BQ, so that you can amplify the biggest number. The only issue, so basically you have it. You want Sun Tzu BQ and LC Alex. Yes, because Wallace is useless already. If I'm investing in Sun, like if he's working as I'm describing right now, I'm likely gonna invest in him, but actually no, and you will understand why. Because if I do that, I split my BQ on LC. I buff my BQ, but in my case, I'm gonna nerf my Liu Che. And why is that? Well, look at my crappy infantry second gear. My main one is legit. I just need to put a horn here. I don't know where it is, or why it's like this. So this is legit, alright? But if I put my secondary gear on Liu Che, well, this is garbage, All right, I can't even use that. This is kind of useless, especially if I do a Luce Alex. That would be the fastest, one of the fastest march in my lineup, not factoring calves, obviously. So if I do that, all right, I buff my BQ because I have Sun Tzu with him, but I massively nerf my Luce because I have no gear. So in my case, splitting up BQ LC might will likely reduce my overall damage output. So there is basically two things to consider. If Sun Tzu is the most damaging commander ever, which I doubt, alright? That's why my speculation so far are to treat him as an amplifier, but that will only be confirmed or proven wrong with actual tests once he's out. So if he's the most damaging ever, you put LC with him and you amplify him. You use LC as the amplifier, even though he's very damaging by himself, to amplify Sun as much as possible. And then you are getting like 6-second rage cycle quite constantly. It can happen. More likely, you're gonna have 7 seconds. If you are unlucky, 8 seconds, and if you are lucky, that's not very lucky, it's like, no, you didn't win the lottery. Yeah, you can go down as, yeah, even casting your active skill again here. This is possible. So you basically can have a constant uptime of the smite, of the sage buff. This is possible, right? This is not very reliable, but it can happen. But more realistically, you will have something like this. If you are unlucky, something like this, right? This is more like the average, right? If you pair him with Luce, which you would only do, again, if Sun Tzu is the most damaging out of the 3 commanders, right? Yeah. But if he's the amplifier, you pair him with BQ, but in that case, you need to ask yourself, does my second gear looks like crap, like this? And in that case, well, you might not want to invest in Sun Tzu because, well, Sun Tzu BQ is likely gonna be less damaging than BQ LC. Again, it massively depends on Sun's damage output, which my gut feeling is that it's gonna be lower than BQ and LC. But yeah, let's not make that video longer than it needs to be, alright? Basically, Sun's damage is the big question mark right now. I think the rage side of things is basically done. I mean, unless some skill is actually poorly described here, and we completely were fooled by Lilith. I think the rage is kinda figured out. The damage is the big question mark. The formula is pretty much guaranteed to be like this, let alone the simplification I made. But because, it depends on so many things, well, you should go watch Bilek's 4-hour or maybe 5-hour long stream to to get your final answer, all right? Or just wait tomorrow for people that will instantly expertise him and do some tests. All right, so thank you for watching. How long is the video? Yeah, basically almost 35 minutes. For a coming back video, yeah, I think that's pretty neat. All right, thank you for watching. If you have any advice, any question, any criticism over my video, yeah, please feel free to write it in the comments. I'm doing it for fun, but also to gain a few experience, like with talking in English. I think you figured out I'm not English. I'm not native English, so I'm doing that for personal experience. I can translate that into my work and into my personal life. So any criticism, I can also translate it into my personal life and my work. All right, so thank you for watching, and thank you for your maybe your input in the comment section, and see you in the next one. Goodbye.